What is the first sign of a godly student? That you study the Murli every day. Every day, study of the Murli makes us a godly student. Even the manthan is done on the Murli, but it is not a substitute for the Murli. So the Murli is Shiv Baba's direct version, and studying the Murli is mandatory. So can you get a position in Satyug without being a godly student? No. Baba says that knowledge is the source of income, and whatever position we get in Satyug is because of the income we earn here. And how do we earn an income if we don't have the first sign of a godly student, that is reading the Murli every day? And Baba says that there are so many points in the Murli, several points in the Murli every day. And once I was just calculating how many points are there in the Murli every day. So almost 300 points you can bring out, at least on average, in one Murli every day. So if you look at it, so every day Baba is giving us so many points, and Baba says that, and you see that these points are variety points. And so you see that when we study in school, in the normal school, the Lokik school, we study maths, we study every subject, and we really don't know when it's all going to come to use. Yes, do you ever know that you will use something in your later life? Or if somebody told you, why don't you just guide me which days I should attend the school? Because you've attended school and you've seen how much the school education is applicable. So why don't you just guide me which particular days I should attend the school so that I learn whatever is necessary. So you cannot guide anybody like that, because you don't know which day you learn what, and then it just stays there in the back of your mind, and then someday 20 years later you use it because you've imbibed it at that time. And I remember there was this thing in geography we learnt about calcium deposits from the wall, and it was called stalactites and stalagmites, and so that was in geography. And while I was studying it, I thought, maybe I would never visit those caves, and maybe I would never even see them. So what is the point in studying all of it? But I remember there was this conversation with a geologist once, and I was just talking to him, and he mentioned something like that, and I remembered those names, and he said, you must have been a really good student in school. So I was, and it was so many years later, and I just remembered that name, and it was very interesting. So you don't know what comes up in use ever, and how you use it 20-30 years later, you don't know. So Baba says that in the Murli also, Murli is like a full package, and when you read the Murli, sometimes you miss many points, but if you paid attention and you churned over every point and you imbibed it, then those points will, that imbibing of the point will help you somewhere or the other, maybe 5 years later, 6 years later, but it will come to use. And then also, in seva, because you meet so many souls, and when Baba speaks, he speaks for all his children. But sometimes we become very self-centered, and when I read the Murli, I'll think, okay, let me just focus on what I need right now. But do you know that you also have a beginning, middle, and end, and you don't know what you will need tomorrow. But when Baba speaks the Murli, he is Trikal Darshi. So he is speaking to you what you might need tomorrow. But you are very fixated in your today. And you think that, okay, this point I don't need today. I don't have any problems like that today, or this doesn't seem pertinent for me today. So why should I just, think about it today? And also, when Baba speaks, he speaks for all his children. So maybe if you imbibed a point, then it might be useful for someone else for whom you become an instrument. Maybe it's not directly applicable for you, but if you imbibed it, you could use it to make someone else understand Baba or drama, which you don't need. So maybe, let me give you a very simple example. So when I came to Gyan, I had no sanskars of bhakti. So, I had absolutely no sanskars of bhakti, because I have not done any bhakti in this birth. So, of course, I've done it in last births, because Baba says you cannot have the fruit of bhakti without bhakti. But in this birth, I have not done any bhakti. But, whenever Baba talks about, so most of the points in the Murli are about bhakti. So, and I learned everything about bhakti through the Murli. So whatever Gita I know, or whatever Ramayana I know, is through the Murli. And I even tried, after coming to Gyan, I thought, maybe I'll read the Gita, or maybe I'll read the Ramayana, so that I can explain to somebody who comes with that background. But then there was this one sister, and she told me that, no, Baba says, why do we have to read anything from outside? And if we read the Murli well, then we will have all the answers. So I thought, okay, when Baba says it, it must be true. And so that was it. Then, there was this one time, so many occasions, when souls come, they come from a very staunch bhakti background in this life. And then I don't think ever we didn't have answers. So, even we could understand what they are talking also, because Baba makes us so much aware of all the sanskars of bhakti that you're able to understand what the other person is saying, and you are also able to share the truth in the light of that sanskar of bhakti. But I will mention one particular incident, and it was the month of Savan, and there was this Shiva temple, and I and some matas, we had gone to serve in the Shiva temple, so do some Baba seva. So there was a group of women, and they were reading the Shiv Mahapuran, and I had never even seen the Shiv Mahapuran, but when they saw me, because I was in Baba's sari and everything, so they thought probably these are people who know the Shastras. So they made me sit down and they laid that Shiv Mahapuran on my lap, and they said, you speak today's lesson to us. So I said, okay, Baba, whatever you want. And then they mark it from where until where they had read it yesterday, and then today's chapter, they mark it. So they opened that page for me and they said, from here you read it to me. So I just called Baba and I said, Baba, you know whatever you want to do, and I don't know any Shiv Mahapuran, so but I will not let you down. So whatever you've taught me, I remember. So I just kept quiet and they started, so they all sat. And to my surprise, when we opened it, so the words were, I will speak that verbatim to you. So the words were, I give the responsibility of the creation of a new world to Brahma, and I mean Shiva. So that's written in the first person. So I, Shiva, give the responsibility of creation of a new world to Brahma, and when he is unsuccessful in his task, I enter his forehead and I create the new world. So that was what was written in Shiv Mahapuran verbatim. And when I read that, I had goosebumps and I thought, this is exactly what we had come to speak. And then I took the reference of that scripture and then I told them, who is Brahma, and I showed the picture of Brahma Baba and I said, you see, the creation of the new world happens in the old world, and Shiv Baba comes and enters Brahma Baba and he creates it. So you see that if you pay attention to imbibing the points of the Murli, then you can serve anybody from any background. And you see, today Baba gives us such a logical point. You see that Baba tells us that there are three entities in the world: souls, matter and God. What is the world? The world is an interplay between souls, matter and God. But when you say that God is omnipresent, you have finished the distinction between souls and matter and God. And if they are one and the same thing, then why are there three names for it? So matter is matter, souls are souls, and God is God. But when you say God is omnipresent, then you have kind of finished the distinction between souls and matter and God. But Baba says, no, there is a difference between souls and matter and God. And that difference you must know, because it's when there is a difference, then there is number wise also. And that's why Baba says you must know who is the highest. It's God. And then who does God speak to? The souls. And then who does the soul benefit? Other souls and matter. So Baba says that I give you every point in the Murli, and you see that many a times you're not even aware of the mistake that you're making or the sanskar that's lurking inside you. But when you listen to the Murli, suddenly you become aware of that one sanskar which was like a blind spot which you could never see, but the whole world was seeing it, but you could never see. And I remember there was this one point where we understood that vices make us stay degraded but think that we are great. And that point is something that made sense to me only when I read the Murli, and otherwise I could, for a very long time, I couldn't find the difference between vices and virtues. So Baba says that, when you read the whole Murli and not just read like a newspaper, so there are so you read the newspaper, so point one, point two, news one, news two. That's not the way you read the Murli. So in Hindi it's called जस केले के पात पात में पात तस ज्ञानी की बात बात में बात. So it means that just like a banyan, a banana tree. So, you remove one layer of it, so there is a lot of layers of leaves in it. So, similarly, there are lots of layers to what a Jnani says. And then, we are dealing with the Gyan Sagar. So, there are a lot of layers to what Baba is speaking. So, when you really take time to study the Murli, so Murli is not just read or listened to, it's studied. And so when you take time out to study the Murli, then every day you will imbibe the points which will make yourself progress and also help you in serving many others. And also, even if something doesn't look like relevant to you in the present moment, always pay very good attention to that point in the Murli also, because that is something you will need, maybe in Seva, maybe in the future. So even if it doesn't you don't think it's relevant. So do you think that Baba will give you something that's unnecessary? So Baba doesn't give you anything wasteful. So Baba will never give you anything that you don't need. So maybe you don't know you need it, but Baba is giving you, so you need it. And Baba says that every day pay a lot of attention to Murli, be punctual, be regular, and it's also very important to listen to the Murli through the Nimit. So there is the 5 a.m. telecast of the Murli on YouTube that we give, or it's there on YouTube all day. So it's also very important that you don't just read it by yourself, but you listen to it through a Nimit. Why? Because when you read it yourself, mostly you will only notice what you already know. But when you hear it from the Nimit, so you are also hearing it from someone who has reflected on it. So they will give you a different, angle to it, or lay emphasis on the points that need to be imbibed, which maybe you will miss when you read it yourself. And then after the first listening, then you read the Murli, because the first interpretation should come from a Nimit, and then the second, third, whatever reading you do, that should be like self-study and emphasizing on, going deep into the points of the Murli. So this is something that Baba is talking about, daily study, and it is very important that the Supreme Teacher is teaching us. And why is he teaching us? Because this Murli and imbibing the Murli is going to make us the master of heaven. So when there is such a big degree associated to this education, then we must pay very, very good attention to this education. So this is something. And then Baba today talks about, how worry is a waste of time. So do you think that you will get something when you worry about it, or you desire it? So when you desire something or you worry about something, so maybe your bhavna is very good. So when you desire something, sometimes people don't desire something for themselves, they will desire something for others. And maybe your bhavna is very good, that everybody should be healthy, and everybody should be fine and everybody should be happy, even if that's your desire, does your having a desire for everybody's health ensure that everybody will be healthy? So do you understand that desire and worry, sometimes people say, I'm very worried about my spouse and I want them to come to Gyan, and I tell Baba every day, Baba, let them come to Gyan. Or I worry about this person, they are sick and they are not in good health, so I tell Baba, Baba, please cure them. So that's fine, you have a good bhavna that somebody should get well or somebody should come into Gyan. But even if you have a good bhavna, your bhavna doesn't matter if you are not a powerful soul. So that when we were in office, so there was this one person and he was in a very low position in the office, and he had really good ideas sometimes. And he usually when we were talking, he would give me those ideas, and he said, if we did like this, then the office would benefit, or we did that, the office would benefit. So I said, you don't just need ideas, you need a position also. Because who will listen to your ideas? And nobody is going to listen to your ideas if you don't have a position. So I said, you know what? You are worthy, but if you don't work hard enough to be in a worthy position, then nobody is going to listen to you. So stop giving any ideas, start studying, start preparing for examinations, give an examination and pass the exam and come to a position. And because you are talented and you're worthy, so find that worthy position. Because sometimes you may have great ideas, but if you're not in that position, then your ideas don't matter, nobody's going to listen to them. Similarly, Baba says, you have very good bhavna, but the universe will not respond to your bhavna if you are a soul who worries and desires. So worry and desire are the signs of a weak soul, right? So you cannot be a powerful soul and worrying and having desires. So Baba says that you have Shubh Bhavna. So first what you do is you become free from all worries, all desires, all thoughts of the old world, and draw in the light and might from Baba. So just leave the worries and the desires of the old world, become very empty, and in that emptiness, so you can draw Baba's powers. And when you become very powerful, then any Shubh Bhavna that you have will come into effect, because you are a powerful soul. But for that powerful soul to come into actualization, you have to stop worrying and you have to be free from desires. So there is this law that Baba gives us, इच्छा अच्छा नहीं बनने देती, और जो अच्छे बनते उनकी सब इच्छाएं पूरी होती. So when you have a desire, you cannot become pure. And when you're pure, then whatever you desire will happen. But first you be pure. So Baba says, don't run after your desires. I want this, I want that. Spend your time, thought and energy in creating a state of purity. And when you do that, then all your desires will be fulfilled. And Baba today says that so this is something. And then Baba in the Murli also talks about worry, and Baba says that you are somebody who is, so Baba says, you are somebody who is, there are no worries, so there is nothing to worry about. Baba says, you will rule a kingdom for 21 births, and the Father is making you into the masters of heaven. Yes, so Baba says, even for the self, you cannot have any worry. Yes, what will happen? What will happen to me? Because Baba says, you are right now sitting in the lap of God Himself, the Almighty Himself, and then your future is also so certain that you will have the kingdom for 21 births. So Baba says, no worry, no fear, no desire, just Shubh Bhavna, but Shubh Bhavna also comes later. First, spend your time and energy in becoming powerful. So this is something. And then Baba today talks about becoming Baba's helpers. And Baba says that, there is this beautiful name given to children, Khudai Khidmatgar. So had you ever thought that God will come and seek your help? So we never thought that God will come and ask for help. And Baba says that, I ask for your help. So everybody says that, God will help. But Baba says, you are those right hand children who help Baba. And Baba says, I know my helpers by name. So, those who help me, those who help my task, I know them by name. And it's I will give you one very personal experience about this. So when I used to read the Murli and I used to listen to Avyakt Bab Dada, I always used to think that Baba knew the dadis, and Baba knew Mama and Baba knew many brothers and sisters who he mentioned in the Murli. But I don't know if Baba knows me, or Baba doesn't probably, he doesn't know me, or how do I know whether he knows my name, or because he knows the others by name. So he knows the dadis by name, and many times in the Murli he would mention a brother or a sister, and then you start thinking that probably all the ones who came earlier, Baba knows them. And then I was there in one Baba Milan, and in that Murli Baba mentioned Sister Shivani, and he said, Shivani is Shiv ki Vani, and he mentioned her by name. And then at that time I was very happy, and I thought, okay, so Baba is not just knowing the earlier ones, so this time also Baba is looking. So even if Baba didn't mention the name, this is for sure that Baba knows you by name, probably, if you are a helper, because it's not just in the old age, but in the new age also, at this time in the yagya also, Baba knows every child by name. So he cannot of course take everybody's name, but when he took Sister Shivani's name, we understood that okay, Baba is looking and observing, and he knows everybody by name. And that was a very beautiful experience, and I felt very happy listening to that. So Baba says that I know my helpers by name. And maybe I had read this Murli earlier, but I had missed this. And this time Baba says, when I read it, so it was like reconfirming whatever I thought was true. And Baba says that all my helpers are number wise, but if you're a good salesman and you handle Baba's seva very well, then Baba knows you by name. So that's a very good thing to know, that Baba knows us by name. And then Baba today also reminds us of the story of Khuda Dost, God the friend. And I will tell you this story of Khuda Dost because it's a very beautiful story. So those of you who don't know, you must know this story. So there was this kingdom, and in that kingdom the king had made a rule that any child who passes by, on some particular date, maybe 1st January, any child, any person who is passing in front of the gate of the palace, they will be picked up and they will be made the king for 1 year. Okay, and then they will rule that kingdom for 1 year. But after they have ruled for 1 year, the rule says that they will be thrown into the other part of the kingdom, which was a jungle. Okay, so, and that part of the kingdom that jungle was full of very wild animals, and they would instantly eat up the person who was thrown there. So nobody attempted to take advantage of the rule, of course, because everybody thought, 1 year, okay, I'll be the king, but then what? Then I'll die. So better I live and I don't become the king. And then, there was this one child, one boy, and he was God's friend. And he thought about God as a friend, and he loved God and he always talked to God. And then God told him, you go and volunteer yourself to be the king. Okay, take advantage of that rule. And he said, oh God, you're my friend, and what do you want? You want me to die? You are asking me to go there and just... So God said, don't worry. When I'm telling you, go become the king, trust me, go become the king. And I will tell you what to do. And then, this child goes to the kingdom and he becomes the king. And then God tells him, now listen to me carefully. While you're the king, you can do whatever you want. So now what you do is, you take all the resources from the treasury and build a kingdom in the other side of the kingdom. So, clear out that jungle and create a palace and a whole kingdom there. So he starts doing it and nobody can stop him because he's the king now. And then, he, after 1 year, when the term is over, he shifts to that palace because he has already built that palace. So here also Baba says that I am teaching you and I am Khuda Dost for you, and I am teaching you how to build paradise while living in hell. Yes, can you see that? So Baba says that nobody wants to live in hell, but I am telling you, be very happy to live in hell, because with the resources of hell you can create heaven. And Baba says, and Baba always tells us that this body may be sick and ailing and whatever, but always think about it as the best body that you have. Why? Because you can do your Sangam Yugi Purusharth and create your Satyugi fortune through this body, not the 83 other bodies you had. You cannot do it with that. But this body, which people hate, which they say, it's a bad body and it has so many illnesses and sickness and disease, that body, Baba says, is the one you use to create your Sangam Yugi fortune. And Baba says, this body, this mind, this wealth, and these relationships, which are good for nothing right now, you go to any doctor, you go to any person who does research, they will tell you that body, mind, wealth and relationships are the source of stress right now. But Baba says, I teach you the art to convert your source of stress to an asset and how to use it for making self progress, and how to use it to create your spiritual stage, and how to use it for seva and Vishwa Kalyan and create a fortune for yourself. So Baba says, I am that Khuda Dost and you are my helpers. And when you become my helpers, when you follow my Shrimat, I, the Khuda Dost, teach you how to create paradise while living in this old world. Okay? Om Shanti.